This is part 2 of the Chapter 8 lecture notes, and we ended the last section. I kind of introduced the visible light spectrum, and so now we're going to talk about the different pigments that are found in plants or photosynthetic organisms, and which regions of the visible light spectrum they actually absorb. The main pigments found in thylakoids are chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B, beta-carotene, which is a carotenoid. Again, I'm sorry, I don't mean to mark through the words. It's hard. My hands are kind of shaky. But you can look down at the bottom. Beta-carotene is found in the cells of carrots and oranges. You've probably heard that before. And other carotenoids, which include beta-carotene, are lycopene, which contributes to the red color of a tomato, and zeaxanthin, which contributes to the yellow color of corn seeds. And zeaxanthin is, when I teach it, it's one of the xanthophylls. So you guys are going to do a lab, or you may already have done it, on you're going to do paper chromatography, and so you're going to separate out these pigments. And so the xanthophyll is the one that comes out a little bit more yellow, and the beta-carotene comes out a little bit more orange. So I think there's not supposed to be two L's in that. Anyway, I don't know. I'm not sure actually. So I'm not re-recording this, so I'll look it up. But maybe it is two L's. All right. So you have chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B, the carotenoids, and the xanthophylls, which show the color that they are when you look at them are actually orange and yellow, and the chlorophylls are different shades of green. But if you look in the if you look in the on the slide, let me try to just blow it up. It's not going to let me without, hold on. I don't know what is wrong with my touch screen. There we go. All else fails. Okay, so I wanted to blow up the absorption spectrum. So chlorophyll A is like a regular Kelly green, regular green color, and chlorophyll B is more of an olive green. Your chlorophyll A is right here, which on here it looks different, but whenever you do paper chromatography, the chlorophyll A is actually more of a regular green color, and chlorophyll B is more of an olive green color. The carotene you can see is going to be more in the, this is the carotene line right here. So it's going to go more into the yellow area. So and xanthophylls not up here, but the color that the pigment is, that's not the color that it absorbs. So if the pigment is green in color, then it's going to absorb on toward the purple and blue end of the spectrum, and also on the orange and red end of the spectrum. And then it's going to be green in color. So you can see the chlorophyll A is green, and the chlorophyll B is a different shade of green, and then the carotenoids are more of a yellow and orange, yellow-orange color. So the color that they actually are is the color they reflect. And then the peaks are where they actually absorb. And by having different pigments, the plant can absorb more areas of the visible light spectrum, so they can carry out more photosynthesis. This is slide number 13 if you would like to watch this video clip. of the light reactions, and I'm going to now explain the light reactions. I told you that in photosynthesis you would have a electron transport chain. So in the light reactions, we have, for one thing, we have two photosystems, and this is not a typo. They're called photosystems 2 and photosystems 1, and it's that way because photosystem 2 is the one over here on the left, and photosystem 1 is on the right. And the photosystem consists of a pigment complex and, well, it's probably in the notes. Yeah. Any photosystem, whether it's photosystem 2 or 1, photosystems consist of a light harvesting complex. That just means a bunch of pigment molecules. And then the reaction center is a specific pigment molecule. It's a chlorophyll A molecule. Okay, so the photosystem consists of many pigments called the light harvesting complex. In some textbooks I've read they're called the antenna assembly. And so there's a bunch of pigments, and then there is an electron acceptor molecule, which is a special chlorophyll A molecule. So the photosystems are where the light absorption occurs. These are the part of the thylakoid. They're located along the thylakoid membrane. This is a thylakoid membrane. You can see that it's a phospholipid bilayer, like most membranes are. And your pigment molecules, your photosystems absorb light, and that light excites an electron. And the electron came from the breakdown of water. So the electron is excited until, this is bigger so I can explain it better. Okay, so in photosystem 2, sunlight is absorbed. The pigment molecules absorb that sunlight energy, and they use it to excite an electron. And that electron was removed from water. Notice that when water splits, it gives off oxygen. This is the oxygen that goes into the atmosphere that we're able to breathe. And it also gives off 2 hydrogen ions. And the hydrogen atoms in water don't just contain hydrogen ions, they also contain electrons. Hydrogen atoms contain electrons. We learned that back in chapter 7. So the electron that comes from the splitting of water is excited by the sunlight energy that was absorbed from the photosystem 2. And it finally reaches a reaction center chlorophyll A molecule, and which are here, not labeled, but that then the electron ends up in a molecule that's called the electron acceptor molecule. And that electron acceptor molecule sends that electron down an electron transport chain. And what did we learn about electron transport chains? The electron travels from carrier to carrier to carrier. Energy is flowing along with the flow of electrons, and so that energy is used. In this case, it's opposite, but in cellular respiration, the hydrogen ions were pumped out. In photosynthesis, they're pumped in. But the energy from the flow of electrons is used to pump hydrogen ions into the thylakoid lumen, or the space inside the thylakoid. You've got all these hydrogen ions that build up this concentration gradient inside the thylakoid membrane. And so when they encounter ATP synthase, they're going to flow out ATP synthase and be used to generate ATP. So photosystem 2 is primarily for producing ATP. Then photosystem 1 does the same exact thing as photosystem 2, but the final result, instead of being ATP, the final result is NADPH. So you still have a photosystem. Photosystem 1 absorbs sunlight energy. The pigment molecules, the electron, by the way, comes from the photosystem, from the electron transport chain from photosystem 2. So that same electron, when it reaches photosystem 1, sunlight causes that electron to be excited, and it reaches a reaction center, chlorophyll A molecule, and then it reaches an electron acceptor molecule here, and the electron acceptor molecule causes it to enter into these two blue structures or proteins, which use the energy from that electron to generate NADPH. So that electron actually becomes part of this NADPH. The NADP plus is the final electron acceptor in this case. So the only other thing on this page, I went back, but the only other thing is the enzyme that causes the production of NADPH is called NADP reductase, and the enzyme that produces ATP is called ATP synthase. Here's your NADP reductase, and here's your ATP synthase. So the main thing is that photosystem 2 generates the ATP, photosystem 1 generates the NADPH. So here's some information about the photosystems. They consist of a light harvesting complex, which are it's just a group of pigment molecules. The reaction center is specifically a pair of chlorophyll A molecules, and then the electron acceptor of the electron transport chain, which is right here, is called the primary electron acceptor. So what's happening is sunlight is absorbed by the pigment molecules in the photosystem. The electron comes from the splitting of water. The electron is excited, and it reaches two reaction center chlorophyll A molecules, and then it is passed to the primary electron acceptor, and then from here is when it is moved through the electron transport chain. In photosystem 2, the electron comes from the splitting of water, and oxygen is released as a waste product. In photosystem 1, the electron comes from the electron transport chain, which got its electron from photosystem 2. I'll read this part. I try not to get too detailed about the names of these electron carriers, but the electron carriers of the electron transport chain, but they're listed in your notes, so I will read through this. There are two parts of the electron transport chain. The electron is transported from photosystem 2 to photosystem 1 by these components. Plastoquinone, which is written as QB, cytochrome B6F, plastocyanin. These are which is written as a PC. So these are the ones that I pointed to in the notes. These are the protein electron carriers that transport the electron, providing the energy to pump hydrogen into the thylakoid. And then the second electron transport chain transports the electron from photosystem 1 to NADP reductase, and it uses the electron carrier called ferredoxin. And the final electron acceptor of the light reactions is NADP, and it becomes NADPH. And then this is just explaining how the electron transport chain of cellular respiration worked the exact same way. It generated a proton gradient. Protons and hydrogen ions are the same thing. So in this case, though, the hydrogen ions are pumped into the membrane, not out of, but they still encounter an ATP synthase molecule, and they're still used to generate ATP. That's still called chemiosmosis. Just like in